Call first. My bad. We're gonna start, like I said, my head's everywhere. We're gonna start right there and then go over.
Marketing operation manager for City FD.
Ybor.
Carla Cheatham Rose, Historic Ybor and Gary Neighborhood Association. Very business owner.
Jack Smith, resident member at large. Michael A. Murphy, resident business owner and at large.
Person area, that's Ybor number.
David Bailey, resident representing Historic Ybor Neighborhood Civic Association.
Rich McIntyre, business owner and member.
I mean, I had it earlier. Any buttons, but.
Just say who you are.
Yeah, just a roll call. Just introducing ourselves.
I'm Tony Brown. I'm one of your speakers. Let's see.
Okay.
Diego Pardo at the East. Just us staying with the Tampa Police Department.
Nate Lopez, code enforcement.
Tom DeGeorge, Ybor Merchants Association.
Brenda Frower, Ybor CRA manager.
Miguel Sanchez, TNI, City of Tampa.
You have the form.
All right, and we have quorum. So now public comment.
So I've met with parking with Ben and Sylvia since, and last month they were here. We've been working on some things. I don't know what kind of big picture business, there's no like validation program that's really going to work, unless we as businesses can pay for people to park. But I think it's continuing to be an issue. The way I think that Ybor City CRA has fought for years to have some sort of free or like 2-hour free parking. We had it a long time. If there is money in the budget to be found, I think that could help the businesses, and it might be worth looking into to help support the businesses of Ybor City.
Can we use CRA money for parking?
Good question.
You can use to make a garage.
To
Simmons,
construct-
ladies and gentlemen.
Hello?
So that is a great question. Normally it's bricks and mortar. You're building parking, you're resurfacing parking, you're doing those kind of things. For actual programs, that would be a legal question. We have to explore. I don't know of any other series that are really doing that. So, we're very kind of constricted by how we utilize our dollars. But the only, and again, back to the 2-hour parking, the only parking that we know of is in the surface lot. So you get 2 hours in the surface lot. And then after that, you have to pay. So they don't have it in the garage, like it's closer to maybe your Right, business. there's the on-street parking and then there's garage parking as well. So there's a variety of parking options. But, Right. 2-hour free parking is a couple of lots of them.
Right. Are you looking for street parking by your place or are you close to the garage?
Close to the garage. It's just getting very, like even for Fiesta Day, the special rate that the city was charging was $40 in the lots. $40 $40? flat fee, 40. You can park on the street for like 10.50 or something, but the lot were 40. But those weren't City of Tampa
Oh.
laws. Were City of Tampa laws.
Why did they jack the
Really,
rates
so they
up
said
yesterday?
$15 is for the parking
Oh,
garage.
uh,
Special rates, they can
special.
raise it. So we should clarify, but I know That's- Lacey Bell walked around and like checked. And so things like that, and a flat fee of $15 for the weekend. The city of parking still says that that's the cheapest one around, which maybe not. So they're not so inclined to do anything about it, but that's pretty high, and that's gonna keep people away.
Mhm.
So-
On a non-event night.
On a non-event
Yes.
night, it's,
Yes.
over the weekend, it's $15 just to park straight up at parking garages.
Yes. Okay.
I just think that.
We can look into that. I can follow
They're
up.
excessively high.
Yes. Okay.
And I also think, just to piggyback off of that, like we've been saying too, whatever the deal is, it's not clearly defined. I mean, it's not clearly defined to the businesses to be able to make sure, other businesses understand are on page 2, and it's certainly public facing to the consumer, not clearly defined.
Where can we get those policies? Do they write, or the policies written?
For parking?
They're-
For the-
You mean their rates and
Yeah,
stuff?
the
Their
rates.
rates are online.
Yeah, they're online.
It's
Yeah.
not all perfect, but they're online.
But we have signs around the district that say, don't feed the chickens, to make everybody clear, but we don't have signs where there's expensive parking that's gouging people, that if you're looking for other alternatives, this is where you can go. There's nothing there to the consumer,
That's true.
you know, and we need that. We have to have it.
Okay, I will follow up with parking and get some information to you guys.
We need a motion or anything for that in public comment.
You know, not usually during public comment, you know.
I'm just making sure.
Public comment, yeah.
I figure I'm just making sure.
I have a concern about, I don't know if this group can help us with that. The road closures associated like with the recent night parade. And they closed all of 7, all the way to the new crosstown between those. So one of the things they did by doing so is they block off an open business, Pilar's Peppers. So she's open and she has that Antigos. And so that night she had a full house. And so how are people supposed to go there to pick up their animals at the end of the day when they had the entire road closed for, I'm not sure, I guess for staging at the end of the parade or whatever. We went around some barricades, got into a nice conversation, horsemen over it to get to our dogs. And their response was, well, you could walk to get to it. So that was an open business, a walk-in business that was blocked off. And I just, I don't know.
It's not good.
Pilar Pet Resort, Pilar.
So on that, that would be special events office. They do meet with the night parade's coming in. And if there's a situation like that and they know about it, I don't know if they knew about the pet store. I don't know.
They do. They said that she knew about.
Yeah, but
and she
usually
knows.
they
It's
can
like-
provide an access somehow.
Yes, they should.
So do you know April Cormier? Does she know April? April Cormier is sort of our a contact for the Ybor special events. And
April's been there for a long
she's been
time.
there for a long time, and they usually are trying to accommodate, at least provide access for businesses. If they know ahead of time and they can work it into their MOT.
When we were still doing the Snow on 7th parade in the district,
Mhm.
and I was helping with that, we would have several meetings with them leading up to, the planning and everything that goes involved in it. I wonder if April would be keen on, when there's an event coming into Ybor City, having a representative from the Ybor Merchants Association there, no matter who's throwing the event. So there's a voice there for the businesses. I don't know who gets to be in those meetings, other than when I was in them, there would be representatives from the city, from TPD, from the fire offices, but I can't seem to remember, being that I was already with the Merchants Association, if there was then a representative there, or would be from the Merchants Association, from a neighborhood association. So you have some people in addition in those meetings that aren't directly associated with the event, but are directly in that community, that could raise their hand up to, in the planning, like a couple of red flags that might be noted.
So they're not.
Stuff that they might not be thinking about, like the people that live in East Ybor, or the businesses that aren't necessarily, we're happy to have a parade come in, but it might not benefit us to have it. So there should be certain protocol in place for
Or
us.
is it just something that would help direct traffic around, something like that?
Yeah.
I know they also walk Ticos, but Ticos is a kind of a walk up. There's parking and people are going to be people are driving to come pick up their animals and take them to places very far from here.
But like you're saying, it's a, I think what's happening is the parade becomes more successful, the landing strip gets longer in the East Ybor, and the city's not used to there being businesses open on 7th Avenue.
Exactly.
So it's like a good problem to have, but it is kind of rude to some of these businesses to have them shut out.
Well, and they just need to know ahead of time too, and be coordinated, so they can tell their customers how to access their business and all that. I did that for years, so maybe I will call April and say, hey, we need to, let's
They
have.
did that, but how would they access their business?
There's always a way to be
Okay.
able to provide an access. You may have to go from the south or what have you, but there is a way. Yeah, there always is.
If you reach out to April, and she's welcome, I'd be happy to sit in on a meeting
Okay,
with her as
Yeah,
well.
I'll
and
talk to her.
just try to
That
talk
came up at our
about some
meeting.
sort of solutions.
thank you. Okay.
Any other public comment? All right, excellent. On to the approval of the minutes.
I have a question.
Okay.
So the minutes used to be pretty comprehensive. They used to be probably 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 pages long, which is kind of boring for us, but it's also a public record for the neighborhood associations to reference to kind of have a record of history. And it doesn't seem like we have that anymore. Is that, you know, if that's a result of like, is this AI transcription now? Can they not hear what we're
No,
saying?
it has to do with a couple things. Number one, we're under a template and we're using the same template across all the CACs. More importantly, that it's got to be ADA. So that's why these minutes look a little bit different. I had to take the tables, they had to take tables out, things like that. Because now there is an absolute rule when we post anything, because these get posted on the website, they have to be ADA accessible. And I'm talking not just readability, it's got to be for blind people, it's got to be for sensory. So this is a template we're working on. So I'm sorry if they seem a little boring and dry. The most important part of minutes is that you have to capture who was there, when you started, the motions that were made, general discussion. They're not verbatim minutes. The beauty is we have we have the tape. So if anyone wants to really hear the whole tape, you can also access that as well. And I think, did I not add it to the end? I will definitely make sure that link is added to the minutes. But
Yeah, if you have that link, that would be helpful.
I'll add that to the minutes.
But
Yes,
for
no problem.
example, public comment from last meeting, Ed Austin, Ybor resident. Nothing.
That's how city council is. You just list who attended and who was at the public, who spoke. You don't go into detail what they spoke about.
Okay, yeah, what we used to. I mean, there used to be more
I
detail.
can do a little bit more for you. I'm following this new template,
We
so
could get the link, like I
that's the
said,
link is there.
the associations use that as a
Absolutely.
record.
Be happy to. You need a motion.
Yep, a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Sure, second. Debate,
Sorry, who seconded?
Rich, first,
Oh, right.
second.
Two Riches, okay.
Rich and Rich.
Got it.
Rich times two, I said. Debate. All in favor? Anyone opposed? One opposed? For the edit.
All right.
All right. Takes us to our community policing updates. Tampa Police Report, Lieutenant.
How's everybody doing today?
Good, thank you for being here.
It's not a problem. Always, part of this position, I'm new lieutenant from September of last year. This is, something new to me for the position, and I can't believe how much I enjoy it. I'm being sarcastic. I do love coming out and meeting members and finding ways that we can, improve that relationship, continue to work together as partners and team members.
It means a lot to us.
Apologize for my technology here, but I found this is easier than printing bunches of paper. First report I have is on, it's homeless related, for the recent, for January of this year and February of this year. So, we had, anyway.
It'll never be the same going forward.
We had three homeless arrests this year versus 5 last year. This is off of February. So I assume what you guys want. I have January as well. So with our 4-on-4 off schedule and then Captain Ken is not available, you always don't get the same of us twice. So I apologize for repeating information you already. Certainly not my intention. Narcotics arrest, we're at 0 for February, that's good and bad. I guess. I don't think it's any lack of use, but as far as trespass warnings, we stayed even 3 and 3. What we call street checks, is basically like interaction, like a field interview, 5 this year versus 6 last year. And as far as building checks, we're up quite a bit, which, this is just kind of keep an eye on these abandoned buildings in different places where we're having issues. We did 5 last year, we did 27 this year. So it's probably a good statistic, because we're out of the car, we're moving around, we're checking things, and again, it's not a harassment of anybody. It's it's a balance of providing services for those that are in need that can't help themselves and accommodating, the community and business owners, because it's tough when you're running a business or anything, and people are trying to come in and out, and someone's asking them for money, or they're being approached, and they don't feel safe. I mean, so it's a delicate balance, you know, I hope that makes sense. Any questions on that?
I have a quick,
Yes, sir.
real quick. When you said 5 last year and 27 this year, do you mean to date? Or do you
Yes,
mean
that's
you did 5 of it?
February 1st through February 22nd.
Thank you.
I know we're a few days, but you know, this is pretty pulled stat, so.
Very good.
You know, like, so that's probably the one stat I'm good with going up. You know,
Sure.
if that, you know, those are those checks. I mean, I don't really have like the results of, you know, like exact results of each contact, whether or not somebody was contacted each time, right, and along those lines. That'd be a lot of data. We'd be here all day for me to read that stuff, so, okay. Any other questions? Sorry. Yes, sir.
So I noticed on Saturday, there was a team of 3 officers on bikes going up and down 7, which was really good, covered a lot of ground and good progress. Is there a schedule for that? I was curious.
What,
Not gonna let that person in.
and this was not the Saturday for the parade, this is just a
Sorry, Saturday before.
Saturday before the parade. What time of day?
I'd say it was for.
Yeah, we have a bike squad, and they, you know, they kind of move them around at different parts, different needs of the city. So, and
So there's no regular.
well, we would never want to broadcast, hey, we're going to be out here at this time, so then people could go and do something, you know, outside of those times.
I thought it was good.
No, yeah, the bike is great. Yeah, you can request, you know, hey, I would like a little more presence here, and, you know, they'll move them around like that. They spend a lot of time in downtown, for a lot of reasons. One, that's close to the headquarters, because it's that people power. So, you know, our bicycle officers need their rest every now and again if they ride too much. But yeah, it's a great, community resource. You know, you're approachable, you're right there. You can get in places that the car can't get. You'll see more that an officer in the car will see, and they're not tied to the radio to answer calls. So they're able to do a lot of that proactive stuff. And by proactive, I mean like community, you know, community engagement, you know, community policing as a whole. So I hope that answered your question, because sometimes I ramble.
No, no, no.
So,
I guess the point of the question was, there are times when, especially maybe on the earlier part of the evening, maybe 9-ish, whatever, on 7th, there's a lot of ground to cover. And there's people walking around, but there's not a ton of police presence. It'd be a nice way to cover a lot of ground. If there's more of
so
it.
you're saying like more like in the morning time, especially on the weekends, of the proactive.
9 a.m., 9 p.m.
I was talking more evening before things.
Oh, more easy. And I'm not sure that their exact hours. I know they change them quite a bit. So
It seems like-
I'm just making a note here so I remember. 'Cause I know we also have the fire department on bikes too for medical response on those Ybor nights, and that's amazing. I will certainly bring that forward and see what we can do to accommodate that for you. Any other questions? Sorry. Yes, sir.
Comment, in South Ybor, so South of 7th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, we have appreciated the difference of having the officers more like visible at the intersection of the right of way. We've heard from time to time, you know, people just like, why are there 3 flat cars underneath the oak tree that no one can see on 2nd Avenue? And, you know, oftentimes I think it's because they're on break and they're doing paperwork or something like that, but the perception of having the officer.
Now you're talking about during the weekend hours or just in general?
In general, it seems like lately they've been more prominent up on the street.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we constantly strive for. We kind of look for areas of
They're gonna
interest.
keep trying to jump in, but you
You
gotta.
have to write a report,
shoo 'em away.
Go here.
He's-
You can't type and drive. We know that's no good. So we have to sit, you know, and type the
Yeah, I got
reports
it,
out.
so I can do
Or,
it immediately now.
Or, you know, sometimes they might just come in contact with someone and they're typing up that encounter, like those 3 checks that I was just talking about. And other times there might have been something, like it might have been, maybe it's something that is appreciated, let's do more of that. And that's what they might be doing as well. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
just an observation. Yesterday, I think you guys had a very nice presence down there throughout the street. I think it's a great crowd down there. And I do want to commend you for having your squad cars blocking off 7th Avenue and periphery streets instead of, you know, I think we're going to hear some options of, you know, more permanent blockades, but I think a nice temporary blockade in response to what happened last fall is having the police cars blocking those major intersections to limit access and traffic.
Yes, they have a
That was Lee, like he makes specifically has
Sure,
all
when he
that blocked off.
lays out, but
Yeah.
I like that approach a lot better
Maybe
than
more.
potentially more permanent type of obstructions.
Absolutely, and I know that that's being talked about in, the, bigger circles and, hopefully a solution that benefits everyone will, with safety in mind, the highest, the highest point. But yes, absolutely. It's a constantly evolving thing, we try not to react. We try to like look ahead and be proactive in such incidents. And of course, on the weekend nights, I had that extra Ybor deployment that puts several officers in key areas. It definitely helps out a lot. I'm only when I rotate around the weekends, and I actually go home at 1:30 in the morning, kind of before really things get going. They always have an evening or an Ybor lieutenant that the commander or a captain sometimes does it as well. It handles those responsibilities for a majority of it, but I haven't seen anything major recently. Other than that kind of, I don't want to call it a one-off incident, but I know the incident you're referring to. And I'm sure once everyone gets together and, figured out what works best to keep everyone safe, that's what will happen.
Thank you.
That's all. And if I don't know the answer, I'll certainly, get it for you. Okay, I was looking. I was in this very long email chain. They sent all these different stats, and I thought, okay, great, I have it all in one place. I don't know. So I apologize. As far as the crime stats goes, it's been for now. Okay, so in our grid 128, we had the 5 pickpocketings. If you're familiar with this, there's a detective. His name is Aaron Hoth, and he's an amazing detective. If you've ever had to deal with Detective Hoth, he's working that. He has a lot that he's working on. It's not. I don't want to talk about something that I don't have quite all the information on. Usually, when you have something like that, it's not like an isolated incident. There's a lot more involved. And I know he's working, because I actually spoke to him about this in person the other day. It's tough to say you're super excited about crime, because it's not the way that it's meant, but he's super excited that the investigation is progressing in a positive way. So he's hoping to have something done with that soon. And then we had the burglary there at Gasparsburg. Then gentleman went in and was stealing the credit cards that were left behind. There was an incident down South Florida and an incident over in our District 1, and they were able to arrest him. I didn't realize that bars had such a credit card collection at the end of each night, but I guess people do that. They walk off guilty. Maybe a very long time ago for me, but one thing his job has probably done is kept me out of bars at night.
We don't hold the cards in, for that very reason.
We had a grand theft. We had a stolen vehicle where someone left their keys in the car. The vehicle was recovered, and we have identified the suspect on that. We're waiting on prints and DNA to come back. Because, knowing and proving is two different things. And then we had an aggravated assault, which was domestic violence related, which that seems to kind of be how that's been going lately on those types of crimes. It seems to be, unfortunately, related. And then, I know, Brenda, you're in the email with the different officers that she gave. So as far as the community, so you have that information. If you need me to read their names out loud or anything, or.
Yeah, she said y'all are getting a new reporting system or something. You'll have.
Yes.
Because usually I pass it out, it's in the packet.
Right there. Yeah, we're always improving.
Yeah.
Yes, and hopefully it will be a little more simpler as far as that goes on.
So I'll send that out to everyone. So, yeah.
And of course, like a lot of the stuff, like with the blanket trespass warrants, things like that, it's all in the hands of our legal department, because hate to do something and it was kind of like the panhandling that was recently deemed unconstitutional. Again, we want to do things, but we want to do things the right way. And then we have the Ybor units that are in the new units from our changeover to include the homeless liaison. All that should be in that email that you have with all their contact information.
Right. Okay.
So, I have a few of the downtown, the units, most of the CP units I have, community policing, I have more in the downtown. I have one in Ybor, Officer, Mako Chea, if you're familiar with him. But, he's more the night shift type of guy with me. Just, anything else I can answer for you guys? Yes, sir.
Just a personal opinion, I've been on this board for 8, 9 years. And it seems like the homeless liaison report has just gone by the wayside. We used to get great reports from Randy Whitney.
We get my notebook so I can.
We just don't get reports. We don't get presents. We used to get an officer here every meeting.
One of the liaison officers. Okay, fantastic.
And we haven't seen them probably in 6 months.
Okay, and like I said, forgive me, I spent a lot of my last few years in that special victims world. So I'm relearning kind of how things are done out in our patrol districts now. Super excited about it. So when you're saying great reports, can I have some specifics of exactly what you're looking for?
Yeah, she'll provide us with people who have been put in other shelters, people who have been found in
Okay.
places at other.
So names of some of the individuals that they're interacting with?
Right, she would even, but like I said, it doesn't need to be that specific, just to have a presence here and provide us with a report as to what's transpiring as far as the homeless situation. And Ybor is much appreciated.
Okay, so if we're hearing from the actual
Right.
officers that are out there doing the work
Right.
every day,
Yes, sir.
that might be able, so when you have a concern, it's going directly to the person that handles that
Right.
concern.
Like they tell us what there's beds available at Tampa Hope, they put people over there, they tell us, just a number of those.
Okay, so
different things.
resources provided,
Yeah.
what they're working with, what they're working on. So
Yes,
if you
sir.
see something that you identify, you go to go with them and say, hey, I don't know how this bed situation, because it's one person
Right.
that maybe you've interacted with that might use their assistance.
They would even
Okay.
give us counts, during the winter months, it would be up, during the summer months, it would be down, they would tell us,
Well, I know quite a bit. We've been busting to cold weather shelters. There's been a lot of that going on. These last couple of weeks, we just started seeing it wanna keep coming back around for one more round of winter.
Thank you.
Yes, no, it's not a problem. I'm definitely gonna get that addressed. Yes.
Where are your cold weather shelters located?
I have an email for that, but they're mostly at the churches, basically the churches. Yes. Yes, and so we actually get on the PA, we make announcements like, hey, we have this bus, last bus is leaving, please be on this bus. Even if they miss the bus, we're driving it. It's like we're doing, and some folks don't want our assistance in any way, shape or form. We're not gonna forcibly drag them, into a shelter. We can't do that. But we do, try to, a lot of officers have these pickup trucks now, so it's a lot easier to bring their items with them as well, put them back in the trucks and transport it. Because they're like, oh, I'm worried about being separated from my belongings. Not a problem. We can put that right here in the truck. You and your belongings, cannot be separated mutually.
Okay.
All right.
All right, thank
Thank you
you.
very much for your time. Very
Thank you.
informative. Great. On to the advanced code enforcement report. Right? Oh, yes. Thank you for being here.
Mhm.
Okay, typically, something January, so. So the report of the received today, it's really,
So there was no report sent over. But we talked about that earlier. You got it last minute.
Yes.
So whatever you have, I'll send out to the group. So maybe y'all
Virtually,
virtually.
like you email it out.
Yeah. Sorry. Email. Oh, yeah. I always send it. I always include in the pack, but I didn't get it ahead of time. So I will do that.
And then especially the cases that were complaint generated by people actually calling in from January last year to this year, January, there were 129 cases calling. Of those 29 are still active, and 14 of them is active with January, December. They're trying to address this parking concern to some of these lots. I guess in the food ships that have a parking issue over there, so they send all over this thing. And It's actually a case that's gonna be heard on March 11th. It would be the best interest of everybody that's concerned to come and express their concerns at the hearing. The property that will be going to that hearing, there are actually three. It's on 4th Avenue, 1707, 1715, and that corner lot that runs off the 17th or 11 on 17th Street. They're scheduled for hearing, it's the 1 p.m. hearing. And the owner, I'm hoping to own it. Said he was going to attend the hearing. All the property said he did. There was also lot 1715, the piece with the lounge. And they're going through the permitting process to obtain that use there, but it's also the same, one of the same property that will be heard at that hearing as well. So if you have any concerns, calls regarding their advertising events at this property at 1715 East 4th Avenue. To notice that it's been open, but the owner of that establishment said it's some members only. So it was approximately 20 to 28, but that's how much votes are members that are actively trying to seek. So I don't know how that will affect those. That actually now we have 3 properties that we're waiting to have to pay the queue line. That's 1730 East 7th Avenue, 1811 North 15th Street, and 1901 East 7th Avenue, and in the process of taking the queue line from it. There's one property, 1999 North 15th Street, and in the process of obtaining the sidewalk paper. So it's basically what I have received. If there are any questions or concerns, that's all.
What's the status with the parking lot tenants? Are you guys getting compliance of the parking lots?
We're actively, those that do not have an attendant are being cited that,
Are they pushing back? Are they making you go to hearings or are they complying?
it's in the process of actually payment costs.
What's that?
Been handling those cases. That's what these. The information, these processing those cases.
When they get cited, can you refresh my memory? What's the, like, if they get cited, what's the punishment? Like, what's the teeth
Initially,
on it?
we were informing them that they have to have.
Right.
it. So now they don't have it. They're subject to us of the citation.
How much is that citation?
I believe the amount for
2. Any other questions?
Just a comment, kind of unintended where the rubber hits the road. Brittany's concerns about parking rates, you know, when you bring, not you, Renee, but when 200 or 300 cruise ship cars brought to Ybor City, that's going to impact parking rates. And that's something new for us. We have not seen that in South Ybor, nowhere in Ybor that I'm aware of. So that's real-time news that affects us at the pocketbook. So just my 2 cents on parking affordability.
Yeah. Those lots, there's people parking for cruise ship when they're not allowed to have extended parking. Is that the situation?
Okay, so basically from what I understand, is that they're private property on lots
Uh-huh.
and they're all on the certified page. So you can see that amount. But then you have to submit that. It's now historic, the historic preservation have been monitoring parking lots. But in this situation, because of this overflow of vehicles, we have to submit that to the zoning. It's going to make the zoning, yeah, see vehicles. So it's not that they're operating
There are a lot
a
of
lot that
certain
they
amount.
can't have.
Right.
It's that they fall to zero cars.
Are the lots owned by a parking company? Or is it just a private individual that's wanting people to park on their?
It's mostly the individual that owns the property, the entity that owns the property.
So it's not a parking company, right there. 717.
Not directly. Not aware of that. We cite the owner of the property. So the owner of the property has to get this.
Is it 717?
Excuse me?
Is it 717?
No. The one on that's going to hearing is the Hedinger, James Hedinger. Owns the property from Fourth Avenue. He's looking. So it's a,
You may be using some of this on the internet.
Actually, the parking company is called 241 Parking. And it's, it is in channel side and it's basically just importing all these cars into Ybor.
Yeah, they're just looking for extra space. They run out of space down the channel side, they probably contacted the owners and said, hey, can we park some cars up there,
Mhm.
you know? So it's not,
It's
so,
bumper to bumper.
oh, I know, so the issue isn't,
I don't know how they get-
so the issue isn't the hours, it's the actual number of cars on these
Oh,
lots,
no,
what they pack them in.
and the cops also issued citations. Some of those vehicles that were parked outside of the parking area in the alley. So they were taken.
They were blocking alleys.
So it doesn't seem like it's taking parking away from you, it's just the aesthetic, is that right?
It's, I would argue it's definitely affecting parking rates because if people are parking in any of these lots, where the lot next to me is used to park. I'm not saying your customers, but
Yeah, some
whoever
of them
goes to
did, yeah.
Ybor, yeah.
But they were parking cars.
Yeah, and if now there's 50 cars in there and there's no room for anyone else, that affects parking rates. Absolutely. That's supply and demand.
Fair enough. Does anyone have any more questions for Renee?
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, team report.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, January is always, we're kind of closing out from the year before. So all the holiday decorations get put away and stored. And we kind of get ready for February where we know that we have a lot of events. So we're hitting the streets, making sure that they look their absolute best, the graffiti's all taken down, the bills and stickers. Any posters that get plastered all over the place, we try to take those down as well. And then we have winds and the elements and the landscaping and the palm fronds, which I reported in the last meeting, that was 4 tons of palm fronds that we took out in 2 days. We just did that, that's good. And then this is another thing I've been adding, and I'm kind of doing this quarterly, where if there's any requests that we're putting in through Tampa Connect that we're finding out on 7th Avenue or really anywhere within the district, because I do district drives all the time, that need to be fixed. They're trip hazards, even aesthetically, they don't look good. And we're submitting them through Tampa Connect that it's beyond our capability of a program for addressing. We're following up on those things because we noticed some things from last year that were not getting addressed. And then we didn't want that to then keep extending and there was a problem. So I'm going to continue kind of doing that. I think we've gotten a good result with that. And they see 30 emails come in of requests coming from one person, because I have to put my name and my email and everything like that. So they know me very well by now and they call me. So we have a good communication. They're working on things little by little, which I think is great. All of our numbers are pretty much up in positive ways. The only thing I would say that could be deemed to be kind of negative would be the amount of homeless that we observe, which was up, I think, 22.25 within our counts, but that's typical for this time of the year. It's as cold as it may be for us. It's a lot less cold than some other places.
Transient.
A lot of people, the transient will come through and just stand there for a little while and then they're gone. No major issues on our part in that way. We haven't had any, major problems in that department. And we also had an opportunity in preparation for even Fiesta Day. We did a kind of a business outreach where we supplied us with flyers for the events. We went around to all the businesses in the district. We were able to make communication, let people know what was going on, how it might be affecting their business, especially on 7th Avenue. And that gives us just a chance to kind of reconnect with the community, reconnect with all the business owners, their employees, see if there's any questions that they have and move forward from that. So I can't talk about all the events because then I have to report on that next month. But good event days all this month and everything went very smoothly. I think the preparation, the planning went very well and everything went according to plan, which is something that I love when it happens. If there's any questions for me, I will take them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right,
So,
on to our presentations.
okay, so I just want to introduce, we have a virtual presentation by Adam Purcell. He's online. Adam, can you hear us?
Yep, I can. Hey, folks, how are you?
So you're gonna
Brenda,
speak-
yep, I was
Okay.
able to pull together a brief PowerPoint. Is that something I can share on the screen here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll submit it to you, Brenda, by email, so that you've got it.
Thank
So you've got it for the record.
I appreciate it.
Make sure your volume is down when you're reviewing it, Brenda. That's
Whatever.
all I ask.
Okay, Adam, the floor is yours.
All right. Hey, folks, good afternoon. My name's Adam Purcell. I'm the Transportation Service Director for the City of Tampa. So all of the city's transportation planning, transportation engineering, and traffic operations responsibilities fall under my department. So I was pulled into this safety discussion, the 7th Avenue safety discussion, following the tragic events in November of 2025. Within a couple weeks of the crash in November, we were working as city staff across departments with TPD, with the CRA, with mobility, to start to identify what happened in that crash and how we can keep that kind of circumstance from happening again. Let's see, get it to advance. So we talked with TPD, who has detail on the crash event itself. But then as a mobility department, we also went back and started to look at crash history. So what has happened in the past in Ybor that could potentially be mitigated, that potentially contributed to the crash in November. One of the things that we noted is within Ybor, historic Ybor specifically, that the crash rates weren't that high for all modes. So when you factor in cars, it didn't reach what we call the high injury network. So we do an analysis citywide. We pull 5 years of crash data, and we do an analysis. And we
Hey,
do an
Adam.
analysis. Yeah.
Can you make your screen bigger?
We need you, we
Can
need
you
you to put
play the-
presentation. and
You want presentation mode? All right, folks.
If you
And
can.
now you got presentation mode.
Okay,
and-
that's
And
better.
now,
Thank
can
you.
you see the one with the slide, or do you see just the main screen?
If I could have you do it, I'm trying to make sure what button it is. I think right where that yellow bar is, right down there. If you could just hover your mouse over that, here, let me see if I can do this actually. See. If you could say yes for me there. Prompt should have popped up for you.
Yeah, no prompt popped up.
All right, yeah,
It's better.
okay,
Here.
well, we'll just go from there.
Keep going. That's good. We're good. Just-
All right. All right, well, I'll go back to the screen. So what we did is we wanted to come and take a look and see what the crash history looked like. And what we noted was for all modes, it wasn't particularly hazardous when you look at it relative to the other segments of road in the city. And that was based on an analysis of 5 years of crash data. But when we look at it for what we consider vulnerable populations, so bicycles and pedestrians, there are a few roads in Ybor that are included in our high injury network. And one of those roads is 7th Avenue. The city's worked over the past few years to implement a couple of four-way stops. We've reduced the speed limit on a segment of 7th. So we've been aware of the potential for conflict along 7th Avenue. But with the events that occurred in November, this kind of came back to the surface. One of the things I'd like to note is when we look at severity of crashes, one of the things we see in Ybor is typically those crashes aren't that severe. We see severe crashes on high-speed suburban roads, but because of the built environment that's present in historic Ybor, that tight grid network and those narrow streets generally protect pedestrians from severe crashes, and that's borne out in the crash data. So you can see within the last 10 years, there was one fatal crash within the area that's shown on the screen. prior to November of 2025. And that was down at Adamo. And then there were 17 severe injury crashes, and a lot of those are clustered over on 21st and 22nd, where, again, we understand that there's some higher speed traffic generally there. We also wanted to take a look at existing conditions from a traffic operations perspective. So we conducted a series of speed studies along 7th Avenue. We were able to identify average speeds and average daily traffic volumes. So there's about 3,200 vehicles running on 7th Avenue between Nebraska and Nucio. And this kind of gave us an idea of what the conditions were, what the history has been, and then what we what we saw with the crash in November talking with TPD. And I saw some of the faces in the room were at the February 2nd community meeting, so they've already seen this board and heard some of this discussion. But what we decided as a mobility department that we'd like to try to advance are some near-term and long-term solutions to enhance safety on 7th Avenue and Ybor. The first, I noted that we did a speed study. That speed study let us understand that we can reduce the speed limit from 30. So there's a segment of 7th Avenue between Nucio and Nebraska that's currently signed at 30 miles an hour. We're going to reduce that speed limit. We're going to work on a revision of some of the lane configurations, so the typical section. And then we're going to look at bollards and the continued rebricking that's part of the CRA's ongoing rebricking effort. Like I noted, we broke those down into near-term and long-term activities. The reduced speed limit is something that we can make happen now. So that is has been requested through the city's CityWorks program, and the operations department's working to replace that signage now, and the speed limit will be reduced on 7th between Nucio and Nebraska. And then we're also looking at a roadway modification. So we in the near term can advance a repaving project. So this is a map of Ybor, and it lays out a series of repavings. We adjusted our citywide paving program. We brought a paving crew down from New Tampa that is going to do work here in historic Ybor. And the roadway segments highlighted on this map are going to be repaved within the next 30 days, likely focused on the first 2 weeks of March. So they're going to start very soon to come out and start to repave these corridors. We try to look at pavement condition, and those roadways with the worst pavement condition were included in this effort. But then you can see the segment of 7th Avenue between Nucio and Nebraska. I'd like to bring special attention to that because not only are we going to repave that, but we're also going to try to reduce the roadway width or reduce the feel of the roadway width. I know parking's been a discussion a few times here today. What we're going to do is include on-street parking along 7th Avenue. We're going to fit about 36 on-street parking spaces along that section of 7th Avenue between Nucio and Nebraska. And then we're going to install painted bus bays. So you can see the red paint, that's what will be on the pavement. And what we hope to do there is to narrow the feel of the roadway. And that influences the speed at which the driver generally travels. So if we can reduce the sight distance, that typically slows drivers. And then if they're moving at a high rate of speed, it also restricts some of the maneuverability. So what we hope to do is slow traffic. What we saw with the crash in November is this was the approach to historic Ybor. And that vehicle was able to approach at a very high rate of speed. We hope to reduce the ability of a vehicle to do that by reconfiguring the road and restricting the travel lanes. So this will be part of that repaving effort that's going to happen in early March. So there'll be some additional parking. There'll be some new pavement, and there'll be a little bit of a reconfiguration of the roadway to introduce kind of a chicane condition where you don't have just a straight shot of traveling through that section of roadway as you approach the high pedestrian activity area. We talked a little bit too about some longer term activities. So As you guys are well aware, the CRA is working on a rebricking of 7th Avenue. That's a project that's going to continue. With the brick pavement, you get a lot of feedback in the steering wheel, which is something that, again, tends to slow the speed of travel for cars traveling across that. And then we've also talked about bollards. So on the right, we've got a series of bollards, and how we want to install these is so that they're crash rated. You can see that on the top, there are some decorative elements. So those are sleeves. And then the engineered piece is the part that goes into the ground. So these are steel posts that are buried several feet into the ground that can sustain different types of speeds and vehicle weights and crashes. So what we want to do is at the higher volume intersections, install that type of bollard. So there's an example right now near the Columbia where when 21st was a primary approach for the port, there was a lot of truck traffic and the building was being struck on a fairly consistent basis. Some bollards were installed at that location to protect that building. So there is an example of this kind of intervention in Ybor. And what we hope to do, and we talked with TPD about the challenges of closing 7th Avenue. We talked with some of the neighborhood residents about the unintended consequences of closing 7th and pushing that traffic off of 7th and into the neighborhood. So sometimes if you take one action to protect one area, you're doing it at the expense of another area. So we've tried to find a compromise in protecting the pedestrian space and the pedestrians moving through the environment by installing bollards at the intersection corners. One of the things we see is that there are about 5 streets in historic Ybor there are 5 signalized streets in historic Ybor between Nucio and 21st. And what we propose is that we install bollards at the corners of those intersections so that if there is an automobile crash or something at that intersection, that those bollards will serve to restrict those vehicles to the roadway and limit their ability to access the adjacent pedestrian areas. Preliminarily, we've identified a few locations. Like I noted, the bollards right now our mobility department is looking at it as the signalized intersections, moving from Nucio to 21st. We're working to identify a funding strategy. I know Brenda and I have talked a few times about the ability of the CRA to fund all or a portion of this effort, but we're looking at about $100,000 an intersection for those bollards to be installed. So that's really kind of a brief recap of what I've got. And, I'd like to open it for discussion or if anyone in the room has questions.
I have some questions.
Sure.
So you talked a little bit about Ybor's crash history and 7th Avenue. How does Ybor stack up to the rest of the city with these type of high-speed crashes?
So they're much more frequent in other parts of the city. So when we look at Dale Mabry Highway, that's a road that's built for high speeds. That's a road where we see high speed crashes. And anytime speed is involved, the lethality of the crash increases. So there's a graphic that talks about 10% of crashes at 20 miles an hour are fatal. 90% of crashes at 50 miles an hour are fatal. So there's kind of there's a very strong correlation between speed of vehicles and crashes. When we look at historic Ybor, the fact that it was built a century ago before cars were the dominant transportation type doesn't lend itself to having roadways that support those higher speed trips. So relative to other parts of the city, when I talked about the fact that there's no segments of the high injury network within historic Ybor, when we look at all modes, and that's vehicular traffic. And then when we look at bike ped crashes, Ybor starts to raise up a little bit in comparison to other facilities. But what we see in historic Ybor is those crashes still aren't severe. So the numbers may go up, but they're minor crashes. You know, there's a lot of pedestrians and bicyclists moving in Ybor. But because we don't have the speed of the vehicles, those are minor crashes. So that, you know, I don't want to diminish in any way what happened in November. And I don't want to suggest that, you know, that kind of crash couldn't happen again. But it hasn't happened in the last 10 years. You know, the crash data bore that out. And we want to take action to mitigate the opportunity, the likelihood of it happening again in the future, where we think that those intersections that would support that kind of approach speed, you know, those signalized intersections, where we think those kinds of crashes might occur. So a very long explanation of Ybor is a relatively safe area when compared to other parts of the city.
Yeah, I guess that's why I asked, because, you know, especially if we're talking about funding these projects and things, you know, when I look at incidents like this and I look at the direction we go, you know, I still think it's important to remember that vehicle came at a high speed off of 275. And we already have much better infrastructure in Ybor City than many other parts of the city. I mean, my home is right in East Ybor, and we don't even have sidewalks out there. Kids have to get off the bus, and they're walking on the streets. So my background comes from safety and security, and I know from festivals and when we fence things off, in this given situation, you know, to actually solve this problem, to make sure it wouldn't happen again, you know, a lot of times that's closures. And I would be, it's difficult for me to continue along with the narrative of pedestrian safety in Ybor City, given what actually happened and the solutions that are being put forward, because I don't believe a lot of those solutions would actually prevent what actually happened. Does that make sense?
Right. And
Especially if it needs to be funded.
what, yeah, and no, and that's the difficult discussion, right? So that's how much action do we take to mitigate the crash opportunity? And, you know, if there had been bollards at the corner of Nucio and 7th, that may have deflected the vehicle, you know, into adjacent parked cars. So again, this is a relatively rare incident that, you know, that would take some coordination. How we approach it is a safe systems approach. So what we try to do from a safety perspective is not have any single point of failure in our system. So if the bad behavior of a driver is present, that there's an infrastructure component that can absorb that mistake. So that's what we're generally trying to do here, is look at the areas. And, you know, there was a discussion initially of, okay, put bollards. Well, first the discussion was close 7th Avenue. And that was, you know, that was met with quite a bit of resistance from residents and from businesses. There was still some split opinion on that at the February 2nd discussion with the community. But we backed off of that. Then we looked, okay, do we do bollards at all 10 intersections? Do we go from Nucio to 22nd? And if there's an intersection there, do we put bollards up to stop the vehicles? And the discussion there was, well, that's $1 million. So we backed off of that and said, okay, well, where do we think that a vehicle departure from the roadway onto the sidewalk could potentially occur? And we thought the signalized intersections where you have that kind of traffic. And if you look at the, you know, kind of the layout of some of the crash data, those intersections are highlighted with crashes. So I agree. I don't want to spend money for a solution that doesn't solve a problem. I guess it depends on how conservative with that action you want to be, and look at the potentiality of, you know, and we talked that if we take no action and this happens again, well, then then what's our answer to the public, right? So you bring up a great point, and it's a point we've discussed as a staff here. And this proposed solution is in and of itself a bit of a compromise from the initial proposal.
Understand.
Just a couple of quick questions. You've identified 5 intersections where these are gonna go in at 100,000 per. Are the bollards gonna go on all 4 corners, or are they gonna be selective? And how many bollards are you looking at right now in the current discussion?
So on Nucio, they would go on the east side of Nucio. They would not be on the west side of Nucio. We don't see that as the having the same concentrated pedestrian activity as kind of the core of historic Ybor. But at the other intersections, it would go at the 4 quadrants. So it would go on all 4 corners. And we're looking at somewhere between 10 and 12 bollards per intersection. There's a lot of buried utilities. There's a lot of stormwater infrastructure. So when we start to look at where bollards can be installed at those intersections, some of the utilities and potential impacts to utilities may limit that. But generally in the planning level cost estimate, we're looking at 10 to 12 bollards per intersection. And this is yet to be designed. So there's going to be some engineering here where they come in and they do subsurface utility assessment, and there are standards for the spacing of the bollards. So there would be some design activity in here to better define how many bollards at each intersection, but 10 to 12 per intersection.
Thank you.
Carol?
Adam, I have a question. Can you go back to your traffic study slide? Did you do that study all the way to 26th Street?
Yes, there were additional segments that were evaluated, and those segments were further to the east, where the posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour. Based on the kind of the focus of the concern from the community was more focused west of 21st, 22nd, and that was really the focus of our analysis. There was discussion of follow-on activity in East Ybor, and the discussion included the fact that that area may change dramatically in the next 5 to 10 years. So the configuration of that roadway was something that would be discussed at a future date, and that the segment of 7th west of 21st and 22nd was really the focus of our targeted intervention.
Okay, I understand. I can't see the traffic study results the way you're showing your slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you say? Yeah, did you do 26th? 25th, 24th?
Yeah, so that we did 7th Avenue. So we didn't do the intersecting crossing streets. When we did the speed study, we did it on 7th Avenue. And I can get the exact extents to you guys. We did it in December following the crash. And we looked at, I want to say 7th all the way from Nucio all the way out past the crosstown connector. But I can get the exact extents to you for that discussion.
And last question, it appeared that your bollards ended at 21st. Why would you not propose 22nd as well?
Kind of again, where do we cut it? Where's the focus of the pedestrian activity? That
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a
So it is-
high volume intersection and it's signalized. So why wouldn't you propose bollards there as well?
Right, so we kind of looked at
The
the,
other side of the Columbia as well as the Shrimp and Company and Tico's and.
right, and yeah, I guess we looked at the movement of pedestrians into and out of. So, and that's one of the reasons we're here to discuss this with you guys. We want your input on it. And we want to know if, there are concerns of we're going to spend too much money
Right.
to mitigate the crash. But then if we add another intersection, it's another $100,000. So trying to find that balance where you guys are comfortable with it, what your opinions on it are, and propose what, what's the best solution for the community.
I think there's one more question. I have one comment, and then we do have to move to the next presentation because we're running out of time. Go ahead.
Couple quick things. Love the chicane on the west side because for people who don't know what a chicane is, it takes over, physics takes over where policing and policy doesn't work. You physically cannot go 100 miles an hour because you're going through a zigzag. Dovetailing on the same comments Carolyn had, I would argue you have the exact same problem on the east side.
Yes.
So if you can't solve it on the east side, because I definitely can go 100 miles an hour from East Ybor in
Yes.
onto 7th Avenue. And if you can't fix it with a chicane, I highly recommend you fix it with a speed table because you can't go 100 miles an hour over a speed table.
And that's the only thing I was going to add to that. I do safety and security operations for different festivals around the country. And when we're trying to make sure that those areas where people are going to be walking, where there's going to be a high volume of people out and about on those streets, we put the barriers and the bollards at least 50 yards out, and we look for any roadway that's an open straight shot, and how do we break up the consistency of that? And we'll use either police vehicles or we'll use garbage trucks. And the last step would be the bollards, but we also know at the rate of speed that gentleman was going, if he hit a bollard straight on going 100 miles an hour, the shrapnel from that vehicle is going to go all over the place to those people that are then in the streets. So I would suggest trying to figure out those straightaways on busy nights like that, how you can break them up. And then if you're going to put existing things there, putting them far enough out that if there was impact, that the shrapnel from that wouldn't be all over people in the streets. My opinion. Any other thing?
Car could have
Any
got
other
tossed by the
comments?
bollard too.
Car would have got tossed, and we would have a lot more dead people. So, any other comments? Okay, thank you very much for your time and your work on this.
All right, thanks,
Thank you,
folks.
Travis. Thanks.
Okay.
Is he looking for feedback, more additional feedback, or?
I would hope that they would want feedback from our
Adam,
board.
how do we give you feedback on this?
You
So-
can give it here in this discussion, or we can coordinate through Brenda. I know she's,
Right, so if they're, like I was talking about, this is kind of initially looking at what they want to do. When there's going to be requests for funding from CRA, they're going to have to come back through those costs. And we'll be taking it intersection by intersection and so forth. So there'll be more on this, but I guess you're wanting feedback to see just initially, what do you think about this idea? So, I will, yeah.
I've got some
And-
notes here. If looking at the east side, that was something where we discussed it and we said, okay, well, that can be a future effort. Let's address the area most specific to the crash. So
Yeah.
we're working with constrained resources, so we're going to have to prioritize at some point of where we focus the initial effort.
Yeah, I think the big point is to realize that both ends of 7th Avenue, before you enter your pedestrian zone, are where people can get higher speed. So passive ways to slow down that speed through the chicane. I think I'll kind of speak for some people here that the redesign of that eastern section, western section of 7th Avenue is well thought out, and that can slow down traffic. Similar things should be done on the east side coming from East Tampa. And then more passive, like speed tables or speed bumps, before you start throwing in these bollards. I think there's certain things in bricking when we expand that'll.
And we're
Tap off.
designing those intersections. So as we design each intersection, if we're including bollards in there, we do at that time. We could coordinate all.
It's more passive things that can be done than.
When we're talking about pedestrian safety, the actual most dangerous area of Ybor City is actually 8th Avenue, where the trolley is, because there's so much activity there
Yeah.
that cars aren't paying attention to where the trolley is. People are going through the stop sign. People don't look and go, oh, it's a two-way stop, not a four-way stop. And I see people on 8th that are just trying to walk across the street almost get hit all the time. But all of our focus is on 7th because of the car
And I
chase.
see people coming in like in front of the bricks, people
It's
like,
crazy.
it's four-way stop, but still, people still don't stop.
Anyway.
And they're coming into Ybor
I
pretty
think
quickly.
also that 17th and 19th, you have the opportunity to reach those kind of speeds at those intersections. You do on the outer intersections.
Okay, thank you very much.
So,
And I hate to
Thank you,
push
Adam.
it
We'll have more
forward, but
conversation. Thank you.
Yeah,
We,
thanks, folks. I appreciate the feedback.
we have-
Paul- And Paul,
Thank
right
you.
there.
We have to go to.
We have another speak. Yeah, thank you, Adam.
Larissa mentioned that she wanted to add Palm Avenue on there in the chat. Just so you know.
Noted.
Yeah.
Okay, our next presentation, Opportunity Zones
We
with
get
Tony
that.
Brown from the Tampa Bay Economic Development Council. Thank you.
That's me.
Sorry for the wait.
No, I hope I'm talking about something that's near and dear to your heart other than parking and transportation. I'll be talking about money.
Oh, really? That's good. As long as we're good.
Be prepared.
Just very short, has anyone heard of Opportunity Zones? I mean, this program been in existence for 10 years. And so I'm talking to you about Opportunity Zones 2.0. As Brenda introduced me, I am Tony Brown. I'm the Vice President of the Tampa Bay Economic Development Council. We are a business economic development organization. We're under a service contract by the city and the county to help recruit companies to Hillsborough County and to help existing companies grow and expand, to interface and let companies know what are, or to let our academic institutions know what are the workforce needs in our community, and obviously to attract investments. So the federal government has created, thank you. Let's see how much. So I introduced myself and I told you about the EDC. So I did all that in 2 minutes, Mr. Chair.
You did great.
And so what I'm going to talk about is what are opportunity zones and how they work. How are these new opportunity zones selected? QOZs, how are they selected? We've done some analysis in Hillsborough County, largely working with members of the city, city's economic development organization, staff, and the county. Talk a little bit about what are eligible investments, the nomination process for these zones, and then the timeline. And I don't necessarily intend to just be the speaker. So if along the way, if you have any questions or comments, please interrupt. So as I mentioned, this is one of the federal programs created about a decade ago in order to attract equity into underserved areas. When the program first came out, the phone calls I would get would come from companies that wanted to know if is it like the old enterprise program that I get a tax credit for being located in a qualified area? That is not the case. It is a program that is designed for someone who's had a capital gain, that wants to put that capital gain into a qualified opportunity fund, and then that fund can invest in projects that are in an opportunity zone. And so I'll highlight where those zones are in Ybor City. And with the changes in the regulation, Ybor has been impacted. That I think previously you had 2 census tracts that qualified under QOZ 1.0. They reduced the median income of qualifying tracts. And so you have one area that qualifies. And then we looked at Shaw's development because we know that's a huge economic opportunity in Ybor City. And so I'll share with you some of those highlights. I won't go into the differences between 1.0 and 2.0. I think for Brenda and I, one of the most important changes has been the fact that under the old program, folks who created a fund more or less self-reported. There is no information. I can't tell you the amount of equity that got invested in opportunity zones because there was no requirement for reporting. But what I can tell you, I know that folks like Daryl Shaw and Jeff Vinnick and others have used it in downtown Water Street and in Gasworks. And that one of our law firms is one of the national leaders in putting together deals, that being Greenberg Tarek. So I do know that there has been significant investment activity. Unfortunately, because the requirements a decade ago didn't require reporting, one of the major changes is that funds created must now report. And so going forward, we'll be able to tell you what have been the level of investments. So what to remember about Opportunity Zones 2.0? And if I'm blocking the screen, just tell me to move my head out the way. I'm sorry. So the impact reporting is a big change. The other thing to remember is that to create a fund, you must invest capital gains. All of us around this table, we could create a fund if we know if we have, or we know someone who's had a capital gain that's willing to invest that capital gain in a fund. And that then it has to be vested in a qualified opportunity zone, which is why we're talking to all the CACs in the city, to community groups. Our organization is hosting a webinar. If any of you receive our newsletter, you've been invited to our webinar on March 5th. And I'm pretty much going to highlight on the webinar what I'm highlighting now. So, but if you want to hear more and hear other conversations, we may go a little deeper into the investment activities. We will have some experts from Novogratz and the law firm to answer questions, but this will be pretty much the presentation I'll make. So since I said that capital gains have to be invested in the fund can invest in projects in an opportunity zone. Your question to me is, well, how are opportunity zones selected and what makes them an eligible area? So the zones are defined by the federal law, federal statute. They represent census tracts that have a median income of 70% or less, or you can go up to 125% of median family income if the poverty rate is at least 20%. And so if I should know, I don't know, I won't put Brittany on the spot. I should know what the area median income is for Hillsborough County, but by example, if it's $100,000, and that's not exact, then 70% would be those census tracts that are at least 70,000 or less, by example. So a lot of times we talk about underserved areas, depending on your perspective. Many times folks think that, well, Tampa and Hillsborough County is a pretty rich and vibrant county, so we don't really have much in the way of underserved areas. Well, if you consider just with that 70% or high poverty test, out of 335 census tracts, 106, 32% of our census tract area are eligible for this program. Unfortunately, the law only allows the governor to nominate no more than 25% of the eligible census tracts statewide. So if the governor were to apply that test to Hillsborough County, that means that out of 106, what are the 26 top census tracts that we should have designated as an opportunity zone in order to attract investments? And so this slide, you can see the difference between when the regulation allowed you to go up to 80% of area median income. The slide on the left showed you what was pretty much eligible and designated under QLZ 1.0. When you look at 2.0, probably in this room, no surprise that we lost areas like downtown, Water Street, Channel Side, and as I mentioned, and in some areas of Ybor City. And so you can see in the circle the main differences in those areas. I mentioned that when you look at the census tracts that represent Ybor City 1 and 2, there were 2 census tracts that were eligible under 1.0. It's down to 1. And then when we look at Casa Ybor, 1 of 3 of those tracts are eligible. Gasworks, by this slide, is completely eligible. And that's sort of the first phase investment that's occurring here in Ybor City. When we look at East Ybor, the proposed medical district, and Ybor Harbor, those areas do not qualify for an opportunity zone. So Mr. Shaw has lost the tool to attract equity investment as a result of that lost tract. I'm moving because no one raised a hand and that no one looks puzzled. So, if no questions, I'll keep going. So how opportunity zones work? As I mentioned, the governor nominates the census tracts. And so we've taken the approach, instead of it being top down, where we've been talking to the community to make sure that we tell them the areas that we think can best attract equity and spur economic development. The governor's recommendation then goes to Treasury, primarily to confirm that it's an eligible area and that the governor hasn't exceeded 25% cap. Once the zones are designated, then you can form a qualified opportunity fund to invest in a QOZ, and that depending on the type of investments, there are some restrictions, like land banking. The fund, it wasn't created for someone to just land bank and to hold on land, that if you acquire it, you have to meet a certain threshold to improve it by a certain date. So why would an individual put a capital gain into an opportunity zone fund? Where the initial investment that they put into that fund, they get a reduction in their tax liability. If that money is vested for at least 10 years and there's a subsequent gain, then that gain is tax-free. And so that's the financial incentive in order to attract equity investments into an opportunity fund. And you can just about invest in anything. The main purpose when the program was first started, folks in Washington was hoping that money would go to capitalize operating businesses, that it would be less of a real estate tool. Most of the major developers that I've met have used it to attract equity for mixed income projects in qualified areas that have no income restrictions. Sort of unlike workforce housing that may have attracted low income housing tax credit. So if you're a business owner and you're looking for this program to attract equity in your business, what you're actually selling is a piece of ownership, and that the investment fund is going to invest in the investment instrument, whether it's stock or a limited liability partnership. So it's not necessarily you're going to get cash on a handshake. It's likely to be structured with some type of instrument. This is the slide to show that we've worked closely with our government partners and with our community. We have our website that allow folks to tell us where they would recommend opportunity zones. And as I mentioned, we've analyzed the 106 potential areas around every opportunity zone. We looked at the area where the Tampa Bay Rays are slated to go. We've looked at areas that the county has designated as high investment priorities, and we think we have a good fixture on what to recommend to the governor in the next couple of weeks, and particularly after our webinar, to make sure we didn't miss any areas. If you Google Florida Commerce Opportunity Zones, the state has a website. They're taking nominations directly. There's a drop-down box, so they're not just looking for areas that qualify. They're looking for areas that have investment potential, that there's projects that benefit the community, and that the areas have some level of infrastructure that makes the investment attractive. I think this might be my last or second to last slide. So just in summary, Governor DeSantis has until July 1st to make his nominations and to submit that to the Department of Treasury. Time has been of the essence for us. We think that we'll have a handle to make a recommendation by mid-March to send up to the governor's office. The governor then sends it to the Department of Treasury. They have until the end of the year to designate and report those areas that have been so designated. And then beginning in fiscal year 207, we can begin to track the level of investment and the types of projects that this program is intended to benefit. That's my presentation.
Yeah.
Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Can you clarify again why, I realize it was, associated with that, reduction in the percentage of census tracts that were included, why the other half of the Ybor two, is no longer eligible?
So this is the Census Tract 38,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the boundary for Ybor 2. So Ybor 2 doesn't take a Census Tract designation. So it's partial
Right, it's
in
for the
this
census
Census
tract,
Tract
I
and a
got you.
partial of this. You probably know what's up. So it stops at North 26th Street. And so it didn't pick up all of the Census Tract. So we initially we thought Census Tract 38 qualified.
Yeah.
But in the latest map update, it doesn't.
It doesn't based on AMI?
Based on AMI, it is,
What?
it's less than 125% AMI, but the poverty rate is less than 20%, is less than 20%.
I can't believe that it's 70%.
No, well, I think it's, because we looked at this and Diego is a senior at USF and he's been interning with me this year. We looked at this census tract over and over. I think even I had an email exchange with Durham who thought that this tract qualified. But when you look at it, the area median income is greater than 70%. I think it's even greater than 100%, but less than 125. So then you got to look at the poverty rate, and the poverty rate is less than 20%. And that's why this area didn't qualify. Now, if the poverty rate was greater than or at 20%, then it would have been an eligible census tract.
Can you take out industrial, like businesses don't?
So
take that out
AMI is strictly based on household income,
It's based on household income,
household income.
So you don't have a bunch of households.
unless there's a millionaire in our midst. There's
I mean,
no way, billion.
I respect the fact that you know this area better than I. That's the information that's get published primarily by HUD. And,
Take that out.
There's hardly any homes in that area.
So track 38 has a 14.34% of people in poverty and 116.45% of area median income.
so,
And that's from the last census.
That's from the 2020 to 2024.
so what usually happens, obviously we do our census every 10 years. And then the government will do updated estimates largely based on permits and a whole bunch of other factors to determine how the area has changed between centennials. I mean, we had this in our top 25 until we looked at the updated map and it got disqualified. So clearly, I mean, as I said, we know that your area is benefiting from a significant amount of investment.
I would recommend, on your way out, just drive through there.
Yeah.
You will, like, I'm not being disparaging, but like I think the data's wrong or something doesn't make any sense.
Well, government data is probably lagged. So what you know today, probably the measurement, if you thought about this area 5 years ago, I don't know if that makes
It would
sense.
have been worse.
It's
It would have been worse.
It's probably worse.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. If it was probably worse, why you think that it should qualify? Has it been trending where you've had some level of gentrification? I don't know.
Maybe it was planted in there.
Unless every one of these.
Why don't we look to see if there's a way we can challenge?
Yeah, I'd love it.
Track 38?
Both of us are gentrified, we're of the same economic.
Since I know, because one map had it early on and then the other map didn't.
That's why we moved there.
Elector swing.
No, not that much.
Can you do that? Reevaluate it?
I think we can at least ask the question because it was shown
Look at it.
eligible on one map and not another one.
And then we get an
The
update.
other major change that happened in the law, it used to be that if an area qualified, but the adjacent area didn't, you could automatically extend the qualification, but they eliminated that rule. So, other questions?
Questions, comments?
One quick question. Are there specific vehicles? You talked about like a LLP or something like that. I mean, is it something that the investor would create their own LLC, LLP, whatever? Universally recognized organization to is there like a designation to make it a QOF?
So it would be a legal entity.
Yeah.
And then there's a certification process that you go through with Treasury. So let's just say that you created a limited liability company.
Okay.
For a company you're looking to purchase. So only thing you need to do with that LLC is to get it certified that it meets the requirement of a qualified opportunity fund, which basically means that the capital into your company came from capital gains. So that's the tricky part.
But not necessarily in that district either.
Well, so one question is, what comes first, the
Right.
zone or the investment fund? So you can start the investment fund today because maybe you're still motivated to raise money and to do a project. And if the area that you're going to invest is then certified as an opportunity zone, then you can take the benefit of the OZ. And that benefit being that after 10 years, you can get the tax-free capital gain.
Yeah. So.
Well, if you want to hear this again, join the webinar. And then, as I said, we'll probably go a little deeper on the investment side because we're trying to make sure we hit the investment community. Banks haven't typically invested in the Opportunity Zone program because banks don't largely have capital gains. There was an effort underway, many of us failed, that we were hoping that you could capitalize the fund with ordinary income. But you can, but it's such a de minimis that it's not really worth it. I think the fund allows like $10,000. And so I could create a fund for $10,000. I don't know what I can invest in though, but but it's not the millions that we hope that this program will attract. So one of the things I should have mentioned is that I'm also on the board of Ybor City Chamber, so this area is near and dear to my heart. So anything that we can do to help you achieve your goals and objectives, just let me know. Let's see my colleague on your board. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tony. All right, so quickly, we go through the reports. We know that you got the projects, the grants, the housing, no report needed, no action needed, I should say. Manager's report, Brenda.
Yeah, I just go real quickly. There is, I put on here, there's a CAC member orientation happening again. We do this every year. This is for existing and new members. We're gonna be having it on March 9th. That's a Monday. And we're gonna be up at Hannah. So all of you are invited to be there. I will send you out a separate flyer so you're aware of that. And we're gonna be doing social media posts. Just because I've been monitoring something on my phone, in 1 week on March 3rd, okay, that is Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. They're doing a press conference on the street of 7th Avenue, right in front of the Hart Streetcar Station, about all the resurfacing project. What we just heard that Adam reported on, they are going to get, and we're seeing this as being positive press for Ybor. Okay, so that's kind of, there's going to be a story. I'll send y'all the press release as soon as I get it, but it's very early in the morning. There's already been a couple articles about this. It's been circulating around about some safety improvements. So anyway, this is another media event that's happening next week. Okay, so I'll send you something on that as well, the press release.
Do you want us there to photocopy it?
Sure. Please don't bring whatever happened tonight. In all my years, I have never seen.
Stuff's lucky.
I mean, like in a meeting, like I didn't.
I thought,
Miguel, I don't know what, they were gonna have a conversation about this. That is probably the worst I've
I
seen.
thought that all.
Going to my therapy session.
You got it? Yeah. so that-
HR. All right.
I apologize. I know you're volunteers. You shouldn't have to put up
Almost
with that.
burst into tears.
Yes. And last but not least, there's just a couple of things, housing grants and commercial grants. Y'all know we've got the two standard grants that are active for the commercial. That's the interior, exterior. The special projects is on hold. That is being discussed on March 6th with CRA board. They are having a special session, 9 to 3 at Hannah, to talk about those grants as well as the housing grants. The housing grants are operational, the ones that are in play, which is down payment and the owner occupied rehab program, but we're talking about unit creation. This is a strategy to try to attract affordable housing here. Just so y'all know, Ybor City, the housing report is zeros. Okay, there's no grants that are being taken advantage of. There's no house, there's just, we're not moving that needle right now.
Well, hey,
Um,
if we're 114% AMI, I would think now we should be eligible for some of those grants.
So anyway, keep spreading the word. I even put in here, there's a Spanish flyer. If anyone speaks Spanish, you can give them the flyer, okay? But I'll keep giving you all information about that. And other than that, we just moved the meeting date next month. I'm sorry, it says right, the March 24th, we're actually March 31st. Sorry, that's a typo because we just changed the date. We're going to be meeting on the last Tuesday of the month, March 31st. Okay. And that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sorry.
Can you give us an update on district street signage enhancements? That thing's been going on. for-
Yes, the district street signage.
That's it.
So
I feel like we're getting over
I
that
don't think
hump.
he's here. Yeah, should be a little bit update on this. We have not done with that project. We had to rebid it back out. Because we did part of it. We did like the south area, we did the signs, the street name signs,
Right.
but now we have more to do going forward.
It's a video.
We still have to do there's street name signs that still have to be completed in the north area. We still have gateway signage that needs to be done. Not gateway, I'm sorry, destination signage. And just so y'all know, HCC has already reached out and they've put a call in because they changed their name. And they're not Hillsborough Community College, it's Hillsborough College. So that is a statute that actually went to mobility. But we want to, of course, have it. But so anyway, it has been rebid out. I believe the same company bid on it again. I'll get an update on that because there's not a lot of companies that want to take these special signages over. And then, of course, you have overhead signs. A couple of them, the one at the 4th Avenue Circle, that one had exhausted its useful life. And when Gasworks came in and started, that one's gone. That was, we still have other overheads here that need to change out. They look terrible. Yes, yeah, they're weathered. So, it's interesting because these were put in 20 years ago. We were supposed to put them in and then, they're supposed to be beautiful, but they're blighted again. Basically, we've gone through a double blight on the project, but we are committed to doing it. Y'all committed dollars to doing it. So it's in play and, I can have a more thorough report next month for you.
It seems like it's been ongoing for a long time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's complicated.
You would think not. So, thank you. I'll make a note of that. All right. Oh, and last is just like the bricking with the street segment. It's all been awarded notice to proceed. The contractor is sourcing bricks. So they've been going all over the place, but that's their job. That part of that contract, they had to source them. So, timeline, they have to be completed by June. So what the plan here is, as soon as they have the direct bricks, which have to be approved by the barrio, it's not like they can just say, oh, I've got bricks, because they can say, oh, I can't find them, and we'll do replica. We want authentic bricks. So as soon as we get as soon as we know that they're ready to go, I'm planning a community meeting like we did last time. Gasworks has offered to host it at their place, which is right on the block where it's going to be impacted. And then, of course, I'll get the word out to y'all so everyone knows how that project's going to proceed. But that is just 2 segments. That's just 2 street segments. We're not doing the intersections yet. That's a separate contract that has to go out. So anyway, but timeline, I guess, is the next 90 days. So that's what we're gonna. Once they go in, it'll take about a week and a half for each block.
Sidewalks.
And sidewalks. So had a conversation. I just so you'll know, Adam Purcell is I've already talked with him. He was on today. He's aware of the sidewalk request. Y'all have money in the budget under sidewalks to do them. Mobility is, I had a conversation with Adam, and David reached out to me as well. First thing they have to have is assessment of where the missing sidewalks are. We think that has already been done. Okay. I'm circling back with Adam and shortly in the next week to find out where he's at with it. And then moving forward, it's just a matter of basically they have, I don't know what contracts they have in place, but they're doing them all throughout the city. So he said he would commit to doing the sidewalks. That's fine this fiscal year, but start with the map. Okay, we need to look at this map. I think it would be probably a good idea to have you guys see the map, okay? So you can comment. I think,
Make sure that they
Matter of fact-
assess this side as well.
yes, yes, and I mean, if y'all want to entertain a motion on something like this, it would be good to say, you know, we have you know,
See the map?
see the map, review the map. Well, just look at where they're at. Has the map been done? Look at the assessment map.
Yeah. See the-
And then
I make
because,
a motion that we see the map.
okay, that's good.
So,
Third.
All right, we got a second, we got a motion. Okay, thank you.
We're talking about seeing the map of what sidewalks are currently.
Yeah,
Or is it the gap,
It's
right,
like a
it's the
gap
gap analysis, right?
it's probably, that's right.
Any debate? All in favor?
Right.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 100%. It'd be good to see the map.
See the map.
It's a good start. Anything else? Meeting and all of its perverseness is adjourned.
Good job, Sharon. Good.